See what you've done, Beauregard. Okay.
It's
Speaking of circumcision, one thing. All right, let's go on. Wait, is that on the? Can we keep rolling? Is that live?
Yeah, let's do this live. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Star Trek Trek. This episode we have just watched is The Man Trap, the pilot. Sorry?
No, it's not. It's called...
Why? Go on.
Hold on, I can't even find it now. All right, I blew it.
First of all, take away those air quotes. This is the first episode of Star Trek to air. This is the pilot.
Yes, it is. Okay, air date, yes, not production date. So we can get all of it, yeah, it is the pilot, one of many. The pilots are...
Oh, there we go. Damsel with a dulcimer. That's what it's called.
Damsel. What is a dulcimer? I thought that was a kind of musical instrument, a dulcimer. Or is it a type of...
We're not educated enough to know what that is, so let's just
anyway,
move on.
We have just watched The Man Trap, the debut episode of Star Trek TOS, and Shai has brought along, for podcast listeners, Shai has brought along in full regalia Gertrude / Beauregard, the ambiguous plant creature from Sulu's Botany Experiments. What did you think of the episode, Gertrude? You've got to make the sounds now.
Can you hit the Rainbow Connection cue as we do this, by the way?
So yes, this episode was directed by Mark Daniels. And so for the very sort of start, one of the first 6 in production order, but it'd be interesting to know some of the things that Mark Daniels directed in the Star Trek history. Quite a few famous ones. The Naked Time, Court Martial, it's great, some great episodes. The Menagerie, Space Seed. So already on to a good start. Then we get Mirror, very very good one. Spock's Brain. And
iconic for entirely different reasons.
Exactly, and also a TAS, got a writing credit on TAS episode. One of our planets is missing. So I mean, this guy's done Private Little War by any other name. Very big Star Trek prodigy. I think a lot of possibly the directorial choices in this episode were entirely dedicated to Mark Daniels, definitely, for setting the style of Star Trek from the start. Overall thoughts on the episodes, guys?
Just want to see Shai petting himself again. Can you give that for the viewers? Thank you.
Well, look, yes, this is as we realized during the watch through. This was 6th in production order, but many TV shows shoot out of order in production. But you can see clearly why. Excuse me, COVID. You can see clearly why they chose this one to be the pilot. Like, they finally set the costumes down. They've got this has probably the best direction of those first 6 episodes. It has everything. It's got action. It's got romance. It's got some intrigue. Even the ancillary bridge characters get like a little something to do in this episode. So it's a good first introduction.
Have the nice Uhura Spock moment where she's sort of trying to say, I'm an illogical, crazy woman, and you should just talk to me more.
And he's just not having it.
Yeah, he's literally pulling his collars, going, "Hey, I want to be having this conversation."
So, Shai, since you have the floodlight on you and the hand puppet, can we get some shadow play on the walls?
If I had more time, I was going to set a little gobo on this light to give myself a little
nice.
I'm kind of there you go. Get yourself the Kirk light.
Yeah, there you go. Soft focus. I think we're having a drinking challenge in the middle of that. It was like, how many times do we get the soft focus shadow on Kirk?
Oh, dude, if you do that in TOS, you just get drunk.
Yeah.
Alcohol poisoning is serious. So, I was talking with this about Auto, and it's like you said with the direction, Star Trek is so often directed, I'm not going to say badly or poorly, it's directed a little bit pedestrianly. And that's because it's a casualty of TV. You're doing 26, 30 episodes for a season, and you have to get those out right now. You do not have time to be fancy. Get it done. And so whenever it turns out where you've got some interesting directorial choices in Star Trek, like the classic Star Trek, as it were, you notice it a lot more. There is a lot of style going on here. Maybe too much, in that, you get archaeological digs that are lit up like a 60s nightclub. And you have, containers of essential ration salt tablets in a crystal decanter.
It's not where you keep your salt.
No,
You're
no,
not pedestrian like
not.
everyone else and have one of those
Look,
shakers from
you
Lidl,
know,
are you?
They are selling color television sets right now. Right at this time, you got Batman 66, you got Star Trek. It's about color, and that's what they gave you.
That's fair.
On that note, I just wanted to address. I think a lot of Star Trek, our memory of it is being directed in a pedestrian fashion, but as we go through these watches, I think we're going to be surprised at how much little detail and innovation is going to like show up as we watch.
I mean, there was a couple of moments there we thought, are they doing this one shot? You know, the one shot pan from McCoy's bed to McCoy standing in the corridor, and sort of then is that a one shot? Or did they do a cut and he just ran from the bed across? You know, little things where they have to do almost like Hitchcock-esque cuts and like camera trickery to kind of fool the audience into a state of belief. Yeah,
there's a handheld follow of Kirk into the turbo lift. There's a first-person shooter shot of McCoy holding a phaser, pointing at the soul creature at the end. Yeah, there's a lot. But anyway, I interrupted you, Otto. Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's pedestrian. The rest, I just formulaic because they have.
That's a better way of going for it. Yeah,
they found good success, and when you got to crank out like 1,000 episodes over the years, you're going to have sort of a standard that you go with that makes things. Easier and more
pedestrian is unkind because I don't think the Star Trek is ever shot badly. I can't think of a shot where I'm like, that's just directed badly, apart from maybe Nemesis. But like, formulaic is a much more. It's just like you have a certain way that you shoot a scene, so whenever something has just like it's just brimming with personality. Like everything feels a little bit more alive than it does in some of the other episodes. Like you get to see parts of the ship that you never get to see otherwise, like the Arboretum and like weird guys walking around in beekeeper-esque outfits, and it's just a little bit more. Yeah, it's just oozing with personality, and I can definitely see because what were the other options for the pilot? It was this, Charlie X, and what were the other ones?
Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Mud's Women, Where No Man Has Gone Before, Naked Time, Corbomite Maneuver.
I feel like this was probably the right choice. Maybe Corbomite Maneuver would have also been acceptable, but I think they made the right choice. This is. You get a little bit of sex, like you say, you get your cross section of exactly what Star Trek is about, where it's a horny space adventure. People are going to get shot, women are going to get demeaned. At least in 60s TOS.
That would never happen in say Nemesis or any episode with Deanna Troi.
Kind of sets
Rick Berman is a well-known women's rights activist. Well-known.
Yeah, that's 30 years later.
They really busted out the budget for this. The costuming, the set pieces on the planet, and
those six the saxophone solos. I think Otto, you looked it up, and it was like what in 1965, which I think when it was been filmed. It was like nearly $10,000 budget for the score, and I did the quick calculation. That's about $100,000 for the score for this episode, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot
for a
of
TV
money.
show.
But I think this. I mean, like this is of an era where every episode had its own score. Like you can go and buy the scores. Alexander Courage has scores for every episode. Like there are no reused assets from like other TV shows will reuse themes or things like here and there to sort of save some money. I think every episode had its own score. So this was already a prestige production. You know, even though Star Trek was very much the underdog when it was aired and didn't gain massive popularity until sort of reruns and much later. Like to be able to put this much production in, Gene Roddenberry definitely swung his weight around in the studios. You know, he was involved in a lot of areas where people go, he's producing something, we'll put our money there. We know it's going to be something good. Like even before Star Trek, like he was a known name. So for them to be spending this kind of money on set design, on costume design, like the M113 creature, that's a hell of a costume to only see in 2 scenes. Like that's you've kind of got the intricate mask, you've got the like Otto pointed out in the watch through, wearing a sort of like a fishing net outfit and like the whole thing, and you see it for like 2 seconds, which is a crying shame because that's a really comprehensive costume.
Yeah, but it kind of adds to the memorability because like whenever you're doing a creature feature, as it were, a good amount of how good your creature feature is going to be hinges on how long do you build up the reveal. How good is the reveal when it happens, and how memorable is the moment?
It's pretty
it's like you think of, like, how long does it take in the 1954 Godzilla for Godzilla to turn up? It takes like 45 minutes to an hour, and it's this incredible effect shot of him coming up over the hill and just doing the roar. It's like that's memorable because you didn't just zoom right straight into it. You took your time to build. There you go. Yeah, there you go. You just go screonk. And they like you say, it's a bit of a shame that such a good costume is so underutilized, but that makes it really memorable. It just pops really visually compared to everything else that you see in the episode. That being said, I feel like they almost missed a trick, because it would have been really interesting if when the creature drops its disguise and you see it as what it is, and it's still looking at McCoy, I kind of wish they had dubbed over Kratos' voice actress just to like kind of hard sell the conflict. But I mean, DeForest Kelly is already doing great work on it. It's like just kind of a thing of, I always like that kind of that dissonance of like, soft, almost femme fatale-ish in the way she plays sometimes in these scenes, depending on who she's with in the scene, over just the creature would have been great, but that's just me.
They didn't even let Nancy sing at the beginning. They dubbed Uhura's voiceover, so they're not going to like give her any more. Come on.
Random woman spouting out full-scale opera as she's walking into the... Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. Sorry. Got any salt?
She was like on her way to a Disney production, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty much the Snow White calling the birds down from the skies, wasn't it? Except the birds are horrific salt monsters wanting to suck our blood.
All right, I would like to fast forward to the zigzag serpentine.
We have to. We really
you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait.
So at some point,
actually,
go on.
No, seriously, I want to talk about Shatner here, because in the first scene alone, where they beam down, he grabs the bushel of sorrel as a housewarming gift, walks inside, talks to Crater.
What's
like
a
that
shitty
scene
housewarming gift? Oh, you should bring her flowers from right outside her house. Jesus Christ, you blame me for taking people on cheap.
No, yeah.
It's also like, it was like dead straw. Like, thanks. What am I gonna do with this? I'll add it to the rest.
We use this to wipe our asses with. Come on.
He's instantly 100% more charming than Jeffrey Hunter.
He's got the spin.
It's the range that you, because Hunter does like the brooding really great, and even when he's supposed to let his guard down around Vina and talk to her, he's still got like a hard edge to him and everything.
He's a bit stiff.
But Shatner shows so much more range here, and then as we kind of joked about, but it's a recurring throughout. He's very consistent with this, that the Kirk character, when one of his men dies, it's game on, and he's very serious then. And and so even with McCoy kind of smirking in sickbay or whatever, he snaps him back too. There's no one can escape his.
She was a lovely lady, and he's just like, "The fuck, someone's died. Come on."
Yeah, it's almost a bit of a shame that the image of Kirk that's like filtered through into pop culture consciousness, like. We can have our arguments with Garrett Wang about, like, the reluctant lover. That's an entirely different kettle of fish, right? But when it comes to the stereotype of, the red shirt, we come in peace, shoot to kill, like, sending, those jokes you see on Facebook of, like, this is an important operation, man. I hope none of you, lose your lives. Hard cut all over red shirts.
The Zap Brannigan kind
of.
Yeah.
That's another part of it. It's like, for all that, he does take it very seriously. He snaps McCoy so fast.
Like the characterization of Kirk as a competent leader, a savvy leader, and someone that always knows when the situation is serious. And that's always shown with Shatner's portrayal in the original series, at least. He kind of gets a bit more spoofish and later in sort of maybe season 3 in some of the movies. But it's definitely, he has played more as... Think of like Master and Commander. He's definitely played more as the commander in the original series, as a naval captain. He has to take things with a certain amount of degree of responsibility, which is shown more often than people realise. And I think people react to his almost Shakespearean style of talking that as part of the joke, but that is to enforce the way he talks. It's part of the effectiveness of command.
Well, it's also a case of, like, when we talk about the snapback, it's because it's such a strong contrast to the way he's, like, like you say, the jokey thing about the housewarming gift. And in that first scene when they're talking with Crater and they all get that really wonderfully subtle, just like everyone sees someone different. And then just like the camera doesn't draw too much attention to it. You get the establishing shot and then they're just like, no, we're flipping between them. You, the viewer, already have twigged that something is wrong. But Kirk is so relaxed. And then the instant something goes wrong, he never returns to that relaxed state. Even until the very end of the episode, that he's still kind of on edge.
But to bring it back
and Shatner sells that.
But to bring it back to Auto's point, when it goes into command attack mode and he has to do some action diving between various pieces of scenery, it then starts like you notice about we say about Kirk like cha-cha-charing his way through the ruins, and there's also the moment with Spock in the bushes, just kind of like I'm here now, Captain, and now I'm going away. Just so, it's very like you're watching this on a TV screen in the 60s. The screen is small. Like people aren't maybe paying attention to this as much. You're watching westerns where people are probably doing exactly the same thing. You can kind of understand it, but yeah, it's goofy as all hell.
They could have had an actual like someone grab a bush and move it like across the floor, like pretending that he's hiding behind it, and it wouldn't have been out of place. Like rolling behind a tumbleweed, and it would have just like fit with the whole feeling of that little scene there.
Like wagon train to the stars. We are going down to a dusty remote planet, and we're exploring the unknown. Or
we've got our gun belts and brown leather.
Yeah, do we see them again?
I feel like we do, but I don't know if it's like they're kind of like shown off in this episode just to kind of underline the amount of danger that's going on, that these guys are kind of prepared for this. But yeah, it's
they get.
There you go.
I was just gonna say they get replaced later on with just a Velcro patch on the side of the pants.
Is that when Velcro gets invented? It's really,
yeah. Star Trek
by Vulcan.
Star Trek invented it. Yeah, it's a shame. I love those gun belts. I think they look great. They're
a nice bit of visual flair. Yeah.
And as we pointed out, like when it's general quarters, red alert on the ship, like everyone has the gun belt on the ship, so it means like there's action or there's trouble or you're on a mission or something. It's a nice.
Shit's gone real. Yeah.
There's an episode gone begging where it's red alert and Reg Barkley forgot his gun belt in his quarters, and so they have to like demote him or something because he wasn't prepared.
I think that's a Mirror Universe episode, maybe.
No, Mirror Universe Reg is the most competent man on the ship by leaps and bounds.
Oh, there is a Mirror.
I think he is actually meant to be an assassin. Yeah, and he's like ridiculously competent for it. Because of course he is.
Or is he like I don't know why we're veering off here. Or is he like consigliere to Emperor Wesley? Barkley comes and whispers in here. Yes, Emperor Wesley.
He's the worm tongue, is he? Yeah. Anyway.
Shatner isn't like Tom Cruise by any stretch of the imagination, but he commits physically. Yes. He's not the most graceful or like dynamic of physical actors, but he commits to it, which is part of the charm.
Which you can see when, for some inexplicable reason, the Nancy Salt creature hypnotizes him with her hands, and Shatner suddenly goes into ham mode, and he's just like, he's very sort of, you can see the limits of his physical acting right there, and the directional choices were a bit, maybe she should just, suck his face. Just do that.
Dude, I was so pissed at Bones at the end of that. He has like 10 minutes in which to subdue her. And he watches as his friend and captain slowly gets like the life sucked out of him. He's still not convinced. And then the creature turns into his real visage. And he's still not convinced. He sees like the giant suction cup's hands. He's like, no, it still might be Nancy, so I'm not going to fire yet.
I can fix
No,
it.
you see...
What are you like, bros before cameloids? Is that your role?
No, see, the problem was McCoy had a peek at Kirk's physical, and he knew that he had a bit too much blood in his diet, too much salt in his diet. So he was like, "Look, if I let her suck out a tiny bit, then that means that his overall health will be better." And that's the long game. McCoy is a good position for doing that. He's a good friend.
That's right.
That's why he doesn't. That's why he doesn't get demoted or court-martialed for like being a boneheaded idiot.
McCoy, the good physician.
Cubes are too high.
When someone asks, "What did he die of?" he goes, "I don't know, but he's dead."
He died by violence, which was the official diagnosis until they realized,
by violence.
Yeah, like murder by death.
Come on.
Okay, let's do best and worst moments. One from Auto, and then we'll do best and worst. Go on.
I know we had to start with Kirk, but then let's actually. They gave a lot to Uhura and Sulu in this, like probably more than the rest of like the season combined.
Yeah, that's all you get.
Come on, Shai, you got to do all things Sulu, right?
What? Yeah, exactly. They give Sulu like a clear hobby. He's in the botany department. He's taking care of his plants. Uhura gets to flirt with Spock and be
Which
almost
I
killed
think
in a hallway.
we were remarking on they've known each other a long time at this point now, because Strange New Worlds establishes that they've been serving together for like 10 years or however long it is now. You know, that kind of familiarity. We were talking at the moment, like, you know, if a junior officer talked to a senior officer now, like that, you know, gosh, that's you know, someone needs dressing down for that. But now we know with the context that, you know, who has known Spock for a while, she can get away with it. Like,
Speaking of the long game, the
Yeah,
TOS writers knew that Strange New Worlds was going to set that canon. Yeah,
exactly.
It's in the Bible. It's in the show Bible.
Exactly. But
Yeah, by the way, it's showing even more of the budget. They did a redress of sickbay for a friggin' botany lab and put all those plants in there and everything. So they really went all out on this one.
oh yeah, you wouldn't even know. Those plants were very well.
They were very well articulated.
Absolutely. Best and worst moments. Let's start with Shy this week. Shy, best worst moments.
What? I feel like you always start with me.
No, we've never started.
Oh, we start with Auto because he's always next to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Are we talking about single moment or thing that we liked? Because
Either or. Your dealer's choice.
I love that. I love that. Like, I like how balanced the episode is in terms of showcasing the different cast members and showcasing Shatner's range. Yeah, I mean, I like the plant. What can I say? I really like Gertrude in this episode. I mean,
Shy is so starstruck. This is like when you meet your hero and you're
Exactly.
tongue-tied.
yeah.
And
worst moment.
Sorry, you got worst one.
Worst moment. I mean, it's funny because the woman who plays Nancy is really good in the opening scenes when they're cutting between her three different looks, or like her two different looks. She's very natural, very, very easy. And then the second they mention salt, she becomes this stark raving lunatic.
She's got full Chappelle gift, just like you got
That's
here. That's
right. Yes, oh, it's so good to see you. Don't forget the salt tablets. like she becomes like, and then it's like that for the rest of the episode. I'm like, oh, I kind of wish we'd seen her have a little bit more rage like she started off with. So that's my only. Otherwise,
all right, now I'm going to Auto. Best and worst moments.
Best is definitely the directorial choice, especially all the camera work. Like you said, the one shot with Bones from the bed to the door. Like they could have, and most other shows would have, just done the shot, him on the bed, and then like, now that I think about it, maybe they did that to save the special effects from transforming from someone into Bones. But either way, it worked. And yeah, a lot of the different camera work that they did throughout that is like, oh yeah, that's something different. That's something new, especially for us who've seen like all the episodes and you're used to the formulaic Star Trek. This was definitely a departure from that. Worst stuff, and it may not even be their fault, is everything with the women. Because it's, we're watching what 60 years later, and so of course stuff is going to change societally, but it just jumps out. Like every time there's a woman on screen, we joked,
what a handsome woman.
Yeah, handsome or hysterical or whatever it is. It's like, it's always something, but it may not be their fault because the most wholesome show in the universe, the Andy Griffith Show, was not immune to that either. I was rewatching that recently. And season 1 is like an episode where Andy, who's a great guy, he's always like the moral teacher, the moral giver of the story. He was like against his girlfriend running for the government there because she's a woman and she can't possibly have the sense to like lead the town or whatever. And it's so bad, the whole like season 1, and they correct course, and this is now the Andy Griffith podcast. But the point is,
I thought you were talking about the Aunt B goes to the strip club episode, which is my favorite episode.
That's a top tenner.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, it's just rough to see, and Grace Lee Whitney and all that stuff, and that could be its own pod that we'd have to tiptoe through very carefully. But still, yeah, whenever you see that, it's like it jumped out. Nemesis, it just jumps out because we are in a very progressive place as society. I would like to think. I mean, we're making progress.
Except for all
misogyny is no longer the driving force of our lives.
Let me call out another podcast actually that I listen to a lot. Women at Warp is a really good podcast that gives
That's what we should have rebranded as.
It's been taken already. They've
okay.
taken it already. But if you want like women in non-binary perspective on like these historical documents, you can listen to that podcast. It's,
Okay.
they speak on it with much more intelligence.
Well, that's a
Experience.
given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically, then one of my not favorite parts, but you know what I mean, is when Spock starts beating the shit out of Nancy at the end.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's
great.
not something you would ever do. The intergender stuff is used very sparingly in television over the years. So him like doing that is like that should have been a big wake up call. Hey Bones, this is not Nancy, but he still doesn't get it.
And he's like, no, Nancy has such a strong neck.
Yeah, and we get to see the first double punch, right? The first Star
yeah.
Trek.
Yeah, the false axe handle.
three of
Yeah,
them,
he's
yeah.
going for it. Yeah.
How about you, Sars? Best, worst moments of the episode.
Best moment, I'd actually have to go for the conference room scene. I haven't watched a massive amount of TOS. I've watched like special select episodes, and I always assumed that like the conference room scene was more of a TNG style thing because it's like every episode you always have a conference room scene where they have to talk about the main dilemma of the episode. But every time it happens in TOS, it's always really well directed and really well written. Like the balance and Terra of Terra 1 is always like legendary, pretty much. But this one, especially because you have the added frisson of the M113 creature that you're just sitting there in the meeting, and you get to have what?
I thought the French word of today was going to be Gruyere. Why did you change to frisson?
Frisson.
Yeah, we're just gonna let that pass. We're just gonna let frisson pass. That's fine.
Look, it's the frisson of the Gruyere. And it's just I always appreciate those scenes, especially because they allow Spock to be cold and logical and often right. Because when he's on the bridge and he's cold or he's logical, he's usually being a dick, right? He's usually like being dismissive, or he's being an absolute dick to McCoy because McCoy's done something to earn it, or he's teasing Kirk. But he's got that kind of impenetrability going on. And in a conference room, he's a lot more professional, and he's a lot more, I'm going to cut right through your bullshit and talk about the actual, logical implications of what you're talking about. So when, like, the M113 creature is like, well, what if you just offered it salt? And it's like, it's just like us with our having our muscles to protect ourselves in the wild. And he's like, that's a very laudable viewpoint and absolutely bullshit. And I really appreciate that directness. And there's something about a good conference room scene that is just so uniquely Star Trek to me.
Risk is our business.
Risk is our business, exactly. Worst moment, there was a really uncomfortable moment, and it's meant to be uncomfortable, to be fair, with Uhura and the M113 creature when it's just backing her up, and it's like it's meant to be a threat of, oh no, she's about to get got by a space vampire, right? It's like, that's awful. But again, it's a case of in the 60s and in the light of everything that came to, we've learned about that set afterwards, it's a bit more uncomfortable, and I feel it's more threatening for different reasons that I'm not comfortable with. It's well directed and well acted, and it's meant to be uncomfortable.
It does
but,
feel tense,
and
and it feels icky, which I suppose is a good
Yeah.
thing.
Hold on. Have you
Yeah.
actually named it yet? Or are we just talking around it?
Named what?
The actual scene that we're discussing?
We know this.
Yeah, the one where Uhura and the M113
Okay.
creature in the hallway. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it was actually named, because we're all like on the same wavelength. As soon as you said icky, we knew we were talking. I don't know if it was actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
The scene where
Yeah,
Uhura is
no,
approached
it's
by
that-
the M113 creature disguised as a crew technician in the blue outfit, and
No.
Yeah. And it's like, it's meant to be icky and uncomfortable, and I get
He
that,
speaks
and I
Swahili,
respect that,
too.
but it's just a case of, and it's just, there's something about it that hits a little bit too close to home in terms of, like sexual assault and stuff like that, where I'm like,
I suppose
Oof,
this
oof,
episode was a couple of metaphors in one. Like it was
Yeah.
without intending to be. Like originally the premise was supposed to be this creature that was dying alone, but turns out this is actually a drug addiction metaphor and also a sexual assault metaphor. Like there are two different.
Well, it's also
things
Dracula.
going on here in a modern
Like Dracula
perspective
has
that we
that.
see.
Yeah, it's also that like sexual assault and sexual violence are baked into the Dracula vampire myth, so it's kind of unavoidable.
yeah.
You'll get there, but it's the fact that it is specifically a 60s thing in conjunction with the other misogyny that it's
Yeah.
like it makes it a bit uncomfortable in ways I don't think that they intended. Is probably
No.
the best way to put it. But it's like, again, it doesn't really detract from the episode overall. It's just a case of it just kind of adds to it, and that's in a not necessarily positive and or negative way, I suppose, is what I would say.
They didn't even get into the untold story of what Crater's doing down there with that creature who looks like his wife now after it killed his wife. Why is he like living with it and
Oh no, but he kind of felt
feeding
sympathy
it
for
and-
it, didn't he? He explained that.
yeah,
like he said in the
sympathy,
episode.
but like
Yeah, because he's cracked. That's
Yeah,
the
he's
actual
fucked, yeah.
answer. Is he's
yeah,
cracked.
but there's like some weird shit that
He's
that
been on the
could be at play there. Yeah. So
Oh yeah, there's a lot of role play going on now on Wrigley's Planet. There's it's 5 years is a long time. You know.
Oh, yeah, that was the other misogynist moment. He's like, wow, you just look like this hooker I picked up on Wrigley's Pleasure Planet. It's like,
Pleasure Planet. yeah.
Episode 1 of Star Trek, and you're already introducing the whore planet. Like, come on.
Well, one of the other choices for the pilot was Mud's Women, so clearly it's just baked in.
Yeah, we know where we're at. I think I'll start with worst. Worst is McCoy in general. He is such a dick well, not dick, a doofus this episode. He has got no awareness. Like he gets pretty much like his weak spot is being stroked on the chin by a salt vampire. His medical knowledge is relegated to go, well, he looks dead, he probably is, and like he can't make it even when his love of his life has turned into the vicious monster that is killing his crewmates. He still can't shoot. Like I think this is definitely McCoy's weakest episode. Like, and we've only seen the
Yeah,
one.
you don't feel a lot of warm feelings about his competency given what he's performed here. It's like I
You
would
go
be like,
from- yeah. You go from Piper, no, Boyce. You go from Boyce to this, and you're like, man, I want a warm martini after this.
yeah.
But those eyebrows, though.
Yes.
Those eyebrows.
And that black shirt, that combo that like looked so alluring.
Yeah.
Your best moment.
Actually,
My best moment, I would sort of like to repeat. Like I liked how, and this only comes from perspective of having seen the whole series before, but like how much time Uhura and Sulu get. It's nice, and you think like, yeah, I'd like to see more of these crew, like because you know if we talk about main cast, you know you've got the big three: Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and then you've only kind of got Uhura and Sulu in this episode, and you think that's a nice balanced 5 crew. Maybe we'll see more of them, but you kind of don't get it. So it's nice to have the moments. You know, Uhura has a lovely moment with Spock. It's a little bit teasing. It's a little bit misogynistic, but it plays well. It's kind of fine. And then the moments with Sulu and Janice Rand as well is great. That's nice. And Rand actually gets a bit of nice dialogue considering the sort of the shit that Grace Lee Whitney went through. You know, that was a cool scene with her talking about Gertrude and you know or Beauregard or whatever they want to call it, and the whole discussion of assuming gender really in an inanimate object is almost advanced for the time, as it were. So that was I really like that moment. That was very, very, very cool.
if this was released present day,
It
all
kind
the
of was in
fans
a
would
way,
be
yeah.
all the fans would be complaining that you know, we saw this promotional material on the Hammer. I mean, Scotty, why isn't he in this episode? We want everyone in every episode. So even back then, you know, you got to pace it, and not everyone can have their own stuff in every.
But then they
episode.
never get it again. So you know, no, I forgot what I was going to say. How about Stars?
This is a secret cat episode, which resonated because I recently adopted 2 cats. This resonated with me. So it's like the rubs on the chin, which you really like. That's cat stuff. That when he holds out the salt tablets to try to get Nancy to like come over here. Yeah, it's very.
Yeah, can I get a shout out for the actress playing Crater who just like the instant not like he goes in for it, he just grabs the tabs and goes.
Look, he's biting.
That's like-
biting the thing that you know, disguise. They're always just sort of like
Yeah.
biting the index finger there.
He goes after the salt like Cookie Monster goes after cookies.
Yeah.
Oh, can we just replace every Nancy Crater moment in this episode with Cookie Monster from Sesame Street? Like Cookie,
Absolutely.
Salt,
That'd be
the
amazing.
salt. I want the salt. Love the salt. Okay, Stars. What is our rating for this episode?
Gentlemen, how many crystal decanters full of standard issue Starfleet salt tablets out of 10 would you like to give this episode?
That's such a basic rating. I knew you'd pick that one. So
Yeah,
obvious,
well,
Stars.
Better to have a basic rating than be a basic male image like yourself.
You wound me.
Go on,
Only
Stars.
because I love you.
Give us your rating.
You know what?
Look at
I'm going
that.
to go out and say it.
That product
I'm gonna-
placement by Stars, very nice.
You can't. Don't worry, we'll blow that out in post.
No, we won't.
I would actually give this an 8. I would give this
Ooh.
8 crystalline salt decanters with Starfleet standard issue salt tablet rations. There's just a lot of good direction going on. In terms of getting across the mission statement of what the entire show is about, you get a good message. Everyone is characterized fairly well, with the exception of McCoy. You get some great puppetry going on, which is not something I often get to say about like Star Trek. You get some great costume design. Everyone's performances are pretty much on point. Even DeForest Kelly, even though he hasn't got a lot to do apart from be like a kind of a dope, he does it. He does it well. Everyone's on firing on cylinders. Everyone just seems like they're having a good time. They want to be there, which is kind of like an important thing for a good like TV show episode. Like, is it necessarily a great look for Star Trek that the first, episode you show on TV has you killing the titular Strange New World and life, but maybe not. But sometimes that's just the way it goes. You got to go along with the wagon trains to the stars, like original pitch. You got to go appeal to that. It can't always be a peaceful resolution. So yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I was really happy with this episode. It's really well done.
Shy.
Yeah, likewise. Like, high. I'd even give it a 9 out of 10. Like, before rewatching it right now, I would have given it an 8 out of 10. But sort of really watching it and analyzing it and seeing all the little directorial touches and cinematography touches and checking out how balanced the sort of script was across the board, I give it a 9. Is it best of both worlds? Is it Journey to Babel? Is it Balance of Terror?
Emissary,
No.
or yeah.
But for a first
Justice.
pilot episode, Justice. for a pilot episode, it hits it checks all the boxes, and it's you're like, I'll tune in and watch this next week. So it understands the assignment, and it does it quite well.
Auto.
This is 8.8 standard issue
Points.
Starfleet salt tablet filled glass decanters out of 10.
Thank you.
It's a great episode. It's an easy watch, but it makes you stop and think with some of the directorial choices. The two big drawbacks, again, the women's stuff, whatever, that's going to crop up a lot. Most notably, stars, like you said, I want the morality play stuff. That's why I tune into Star Trek, and they missed the trick. And I feel like they almost knew they didn't have time to address it, so they made some choices, like with him turning into the technician with and the assault stuff. And then when he turns into green, he gets like pleasure, like they show like him pleasure on his
being
face,
real
at,
smug,
at being like outwitting them or killing the crew member. And it's like, if a creature's acting on instinct, they don't really get pleasure from that. It just felt like they were trying to make the audience feel better about having to kill him off at the end. But some of my favorite episodes are where you feel a little bit melancholy at the end because you're like, I wish they wish they could have changed history or done things differently, and they just weren't allowed to, or they couldn't, or all that Prime Directive stuff. We'd like to help out, but we just can't. And then you kind of feel crappy along with the characters at the end. So they missed a trick there. But in most other respects, very good episode.
Well, it's sort of a conservationist moral, right? Because they have the whole monologue about the American buffalo disappearing, which we kind of missed because we were still laughing about Shatner's running.
It wasn't a monologue. It wasn't a monologue so much as I'm thinking about the buffalo, and then we get 4
context.
reaction shots, and then the outro music.
No, what's his name? The lead professor, like archaeologist.
Crater.
Crater was talking about the buffalo after he had been stunned when he was high on the stun. He was like, there used to be buffalo everywhere. Now there aren't.
Have you ever seen a buffalo in a major supermarket?
All right, let's slow down. Riker asks questions. I will give this a solid 8. I think it always reminds me of that SNL sketch. If someone turns around and goes, "That's a Star Trek," it's very much this is the definition of what is a Star Trek episode. It is them exploring or going back to some unknown thing, dealing with it within the boundaries of an ethical dilemma. And this is a quintessential Star Trek episode and a great way to start it, which everything bases off. Yeah, there are problems which how much of the misogyny do we want to wave off as being the 60s, and they won't do it again until Deanna Troi. But
I'm sure that's the last of it, so I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah,
This will be the worst,
you
I
kind of
promise.
got to knock it a
Mr.
couple.
Janice Lester.
And also maybe, like you say, Otto, a little bit more time probably spent on the moral dilemma of killing the last of a species just because it happened to be the Doctor's ex-girlfriend. There are some issues there, but for overall kind of introduction to Star Trek, it's a pretty decent sort of decent go-in.
My first Star Trek, we kill aliens and we look at each other and we talk about plants that sing and trill and then go ah. That's what we do on the Enterprise. And we handpick peppers as well.
I'm here to kill endangered species and suck salt, and I'm all out of salt.
Listen, later on, we'll be selling bits of Lurians to people around a bar with a guy with his ears are too big. So,
Desiccated quark, yeah.
Desiccated quark, yeah. Okay, that is...
Star Trek's dumb, I love it.
It's so dumb, and it's so great. We love it. Yes, if we have rebranded, we are Trek Time now. If you are interested in following more of our stuff, please redo your bookmarks. We are now Trek Time on YouTube, on Twitch, on the podcast, which the subscription should say the same for that, but please come and join us
and
live.
on OnlyFans.
Yes, and yeah. Hey now. What would we
We also have a
show on
Picato where we do shitty doodles.
See, now you've done that, Shy. No, I'm not even going to go there. If you're interested,
I
please...
noticed, Shy, you haven't fed a single bite to Beauregard this entire stream. Shame on you, sir.
Not a single green cube has gone in the mouth.
Where are my salt tablets?
Oh, now I'm getting the Cookie Monster reference.
Not the Borgia plant. Not the Borgia plant.
Yeah.
If you are interested in other stuff we're doing, check out our Discord, bit.ly/trek_time. And please come and join us. Everyone is such a good sport. We always have a good lot of fun. But please check us out in 2 weeks' time. We'll have the next Star Trek, and we'll have other streams and some other fun stuff going on. So from us all, we will see you later. Live long and prosper, and ta-ra.